I want to talk about Change or Die. And where is it now in the production? And also, I interviewed Buff Bagwell about a week before he publicly announced he was leaving. And this is, I'm so naive. So when I was talking to him, I was sort of like, is he a bit like punch drunk or something like that? But then when he like left, but like when he left like a week later, then it's sort of like, put two and two together and that kind of thing. What's the story of him coming in? Was he ready at the time, essentially? And what sort of got him ready eventually? Because you've been putting out all these updates.
Yeah, Marcus was, first of all, he didn't think he was an addict. Like most addicts don't believe they're an addict. I like to drink. Like, you're an asshole when you drink. It affects everyone around you. For Marcus, it wasn't so much that. Marcus he wasn't really a drinker, but when you're a pillhead and you mix a Soma with a Xanax and using Xanax for sleep, but you're also going to use it for recreation sometimes. And when you put the two of them together and then you add booze, well, at some point, you go from talking like this to talk like that. And then you get behind the wheel, or you could be like this and behind the wheel, and then boom, it hits you. And then all of a sudden, this guy's driving. That's why he had so many bad accidents. He's been in rehab 5 or 6 times, but he never went there to go to rehab because he didn't think he was an addict. And Marcus had been reaching out to me probably actually when Jake was living with me, and this is 2013, it goes back to, and Mark was married to a woman named Judy at the time. And Judy had called me and she said, Dallas, will you please help Marcus? He's got to go in front of the judge on Thursday. This is like a Tuesday. She said, the judge already told him that he was going to put him in jail if you didn't get Diamond Dallas Page to come here and vouch for him. I was like, what? And she repeated it. I thought, there's no way. But he had seen that HBO special that they did on me and Jake and Scott. And then he had seen some other stuff. He said, like, how this guy reaches out and helps guys like Marcus. So I went there and we got him out of jail, for not going to jail, but he never put the work in after that. Because I really wanted to groom, because he didn't have any real destination he didn't have any goals. He just going to keep wrestling, like, and doing on the road. Well, that never works out well. Never. And I wanted him to become a part of what I was doing. And even though he wasn't nowhere near as fucked up as he would be years later, but he didn't put the work in. See, most people don't understand discipline. And discipline is the truest form of self-love. Ignoring the current pleasure for the bigger reward to come. I was out with Mike Tyson one night, and we ran into each other, and we hit it off. And at some point, we started talking about training, and he told me that Customato told him when he was 14 years old, discipline is something you're going to hate, but if you can learn to love it, you could be the heavyweight champ of the world. He's 14. At 20, he's the heavyweight champ, the baddest man alive. And for me, understanding discipline is doing something that you need to do when you need to do it, whether you feel like doing it or not. Marcus didn't have any of that. I do. But it's self-taught and it's self-ingrained. I didn't have a Customato. I had me. And I teach that to people. Once you start to discipline yourself, things can really change. So during this time, over these years, Marcus has called me for help. He's asked me for borrow money. And you don't loan money to addicts. But what I told him, I said, come over to my house. I got $1,000. You don't owe it to me. I'm just giving it to you right now. your ATM here is closed. And I said, I have something I'm working on. I'm working on this docu-series. You'll never hear me call my shit a reality show because reality shows are bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Docu-series or documentaries are real, like the resurrection of Jake the Snake. And when we finally put it together and we put the crew together, the two people that people will actually know, one, of course, is Marcus Bagwell. The other one is Butterbean. And Butterbean, when he came in my house, this is how he was standing, and he had crutches, and he would move with the crutches and walk like this. He could not stand past here. I'm like, Bean, just stand up. He goes, I can't. So I put him in a position where I could try to push him. I mean, he was stuck there. Like nothing was going to move to make him be able to do this. But by the end of that show, he was like this. And it was a lot of things. It was operations. It was everything. Hip replacements and stuff. But Bagwell was there to better his name because he knew he fucked up a lot. And as soon as we started showing that he was working with us, people started to book him more. Mm-hmm. He made a little bit more money. And I would say, Marcus, stop going on the shows. And because he would go every weekend away. And then he'd come back for like 3 or 4 days. And then he'd go away. I'll never do that again. Because that's where you really get them to grow in that time. And like we didn't put Jake out on the road after that first week for 3 or 4 months. Like you have no bills. I'm paying for everything. And for Jake, it was a labor of love for me because of what Jake did for me. And for Marcus, I always loved Marcus, but Marcus, a lot of people hated him because of his cocky attitude, but Mark Bagwell isn't that guy. So somewhere during the filming of Change or Die, I stopped calling him Buff. And I called him Buff for 2 decades. I would not call him Buff, and I wouldn't let anybody else call him Buff. His name's Marcus. We need to eliminate that asshole. And by the end of the show, and you'll see how it comes around, he does a turnaround, and you're like, wow. But it wasn't legit, and you'll see that too. And then we did an intervention, and it was like, you go to rehab, and hey, we filmed everything. Like there's shit that happens in that intervention. Like I've seen interventions on TV, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
It's not like the Breaking Bad intervention where you hold on to the talking pillow, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, this is as real as it gets. Because one of the angels in his life is his niece. Her name is Jonna, and she's gorgeous, beautiful. Just had her 3rd baby. Was going through this whole thing with her uncle Mark. Pregnant as pregnant could be. And you got to see. I'm not going to give too much away. Just put it like this. Coming out of that, what he went through with us, what they did was teach him everything we already taught him. So that really solidified a lot of what happened. And then you need someone to really be looking out for you after that. And we continue to. And right now, like about 7 years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, like Jake had been sober for a long time. And all the fog had cleared. And Jake's a super smart guy. And about 7 years ago, I met a Jake Roberts I never knew. And today I know him really well. He's still the same guy, but he has a different set of morals and his character. It's everything. Like Cheryl, his wife, who was in the angle with Rick Rude,
absolutely,
35 years ago, they're back together. She wrote a beautiful thing, and she was really cards to herself in the beginning, like keeping it just between them. And then, now she's on Facebook talking about their beautiful, amazing relationship. And Jake is living his best life. It's going to be 68. And that's what I would tell Marcus. I'm like, Marcus, look what's happening to Jake. I go, you're not Jake Roberts, but you're not that far behind Jake Roberts. And if the fans can get to see who Marcus Bagwell is, I go, that will turn, everything will turn into money. And what I mean by that is people are going to want to book you. They're going to want to put you in things. They want to bring you back. And he didn't believe it. But today, he believes it because look what January did. Look what February did. Look where you're going now. And the docu-series ain't even out yet because people are going to be they're going to hate him at points, because he's being buff. And at some point, they're going to start to fall in love with him. And that's really that's like the arc of a character in the movies. Like what happened over this period of Change or Die, we couldn't have hoped for it if we were writing it ourselves. It just happened. And when you see that intervention part and some of the things that happen, like Jonna is there for him because as a little girl, his brother was not her dad. He did not step up for shit. So Mark did. And she never forgot it. And then there was a period of 20 years where her mom wouldn't let her be around him because he was an addict. So we're going to love him from afar. And she hated that. And when her mom died, Marcus was in a spot where he was almost ready. And so when it all came together, it just all worked because you need a support system if you're an addict. And people use just rehab is really tough. You've got to have a support system of people who really love and care about you. Let me read you something that do you know who Josh Brolin is?
An actor, yes.
Yes. So Josh is an addict, just like Robert Downey Jr. is an addict, and so forth and so on. Plenty of guys in Hollywood are addicts. So so Josh was a friend of where the hell did I just do this? Josh was friends with one of my buddies who is a producer, executive producer. He's one of the producers on The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. After he saw it, Josh Brolin saw it, he wrote this to my buddy Chris. That'll give you the setup of how it comes together. Okay, here it is. He wrote, Chris, just watched the doc and I'm in stunned silence. A happy ending. And then he put in parentheses, or at least until now. Question mark. Wow, DDP, what an amazing guy, a real man. Thank you so much for turning me on to that. A great story of hope and love and real compassion. I needed to see that. Like, that's what you have. When you have someone who's an addict, you've got to give them that hope and the compassion. You got to really love them in spite of who the fuck they are, and to help them get through. Like you got to make them accountable too, but Josh seeing that, like it was something he needed to see right then. And if there's ever a movie about the resurrection of Jake the Snake, my dream person to play him is Josh Brolin. I've been manifesting that for 9 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. How's Josh Brolin going to look like Jake the Snake Roberts? So how tall's Josh?
You got to take height out of it because if the other actors, he's 5'10", but if Jake, I mean, if the other actors are 5'9" and 5'11",
yeah,
what's the difference? No one looks at height,
Yeah, well, I was thinking, is it Chris Hemsworth who's trying to be Hulk Hogan at the moment, or he's training to be?
Yeah, that's what I heard. It takes so long to put those projects together. When you're looking, you got to remember, it's not like we're wrestlers there. In the resurrection of Jake the Snake, we're just ex-wrestlers. You get to see some of the wrestling, know who we are. But if the story's about resurrection, if this, does happen down the line, I believe it could. It's about three guys who used to be wrestlers. And all you got to do is look at some of the biggest stars are 5'8", 5'9", 5'7" today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not really that big a deal in it, I don't think.
No.